Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Madhavi, founder of Jivisha, and I'm also coordinator for fellowship, which is designed by Aurika Linkini on ecofeminism. In this series of leaning into network, we are going to meet people who are working in sustainability and environment sector. And today, I'm very excited and happy to host founders of Life Beyond Development, Asavari, Shivendra, and Isha. And today we will know how they got into this work and what work they are doing. So let's start with introductions. Over to you guys.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asavari, and I live in a small village around 60 kilometers away from Bangalore. My parents run a learning space called Arohi Life Education, and we have a campus here in the village, and that's where I have been living for the past few years. And I am very passionate about environmental sustainability, and I think that manifests in my work. So I run a small initiative called Danak, where I focus on natural personal care, and of course, I also am part of Life Beyond Development. To you.
Uh, Hi everyone. My name is Shivendra and I live in Coimbatore with my parents and my dog and my cat. And I'm primarily a musician, but also very passionate about environmental sustainability, social justice, and healthy living. And I've been a proud member, teammate of Life Beyond Development since many years now. So yeah, looking forward to interacting with you all.
Hi everyone, this is Isha and I am from Bhavnagar, Gujarat. And both my parents also work with children, child rights activists. Um, I am also, like they shared, a co-founder of Life Beyond Development, and I also run an alternative education space called Aranyak in Narmada district in Gujarat.
So guys, what is nature for you? And if I ask you this question of like, what does Mother Earth look like in your head? How would you describe that? How would you describe Mother Earth?
So I think for me, the thought that is comes is I feel a lot of high vibrancy or high vibrancy energy. So for me, I don't think of an image, but more like a lot of energy, a lot of high energy, a lot of compassion, a lot of love, a lot of beauty. That kind of feeling, that kind of sense is what very strongly comes to me when I think of Mother Nature. And for me, somehow nature has always been kind of like the source of creation. The it is the creation. Like I don't resonate personally a lot with what is gods or like any religion, Hinduism or any religion for that matter. But when I see nature, I feel like that's the higher possibility or higher ultimate in life. And that really connects with me. Not that I want to say that nature is God and then I start worshiping it or anything, not like that. But for me, nature is like just the higher possibility of life, the creation of life, the source of the energy. Because if I see, I'm a body, I'm everything, but there's some energy within me, and I feel that really comes out of nature. And what also happens then is that I start feeling a lot like I'm a part of it. I don't see me or nature as two different identities, but very much the same thing. So in a way, I'm nature and nature is me, kind of a sense is what I feel.
Um, so nature for me is interconnectedness. Whatever happens to nature affects me in known and unknown ways, and also uh, I feel that how I connect to Mother Nature, how I see her in my head is that I find her right now. What is alive for me is that I find her terribly wounded and deeply hurting, but somehow still surviving. That's what I feel. That's how I see Mother Earth as. Yeah.
For me, like Shivendra shared that it is interconnectedness. and also a sense of belonging, um, with love and warmth is what I get when I think of Mother Nature. So all these animals, birds, trees, shrubs, bugs, bees, ants, rivers, mountains, all these things, like I feel interconnected with everything, and it also looks like a spider web to me, where each and every part is important, essential, and equal.
Thank you for sharing. I can feel connected to all of your ideologies. So next question will be, when exactly and how did you feel this connection towards nature or Mother Earth?
Um, so around, I think in 2013 or 2014, we moved from Bangalore to this village campus here in Kelamangalam, which is like around 60 kilometers. So I'm born and brought up in Bangalore, live in a middle class family. So always been a part of a metropolitan city, an urban environment, and that's how my lifestyle has always been. But when we shifted, from that whole lifestyle of an urban city to a village, where suddenly, the it was I was completely surrounded by nature. I think that's really when my journey of connecting with nature started, and I started deeply understanding what nature means. Otherwise, till then, it was just more of in the books and not really knowing what nature is, or what it actually is. Or always in the city, it felt like it's something outside, it's some external entity. But when I started living here in the village, in the campus, I started feeling so much more connected, and I started realizing that, I'm a part of it. And for me, that romantic image of nature, when a forest is talked about or when nature is talked about, there's generally a, a big romantic image attached to it, that beautiful forest, water running, and all of those things. But when I started living, I realized that it's not that. I mean, it is that, there's a lot of it that is that, but it's a mix. So it's like there's no good or bad in nature. It's a gray area where there are things that are beautiful, there are things that are dangerous, there are things, so I live in a place where there are elephants, where there are wild animals, snakes, scorpions. But there's also so many but living with these animals, living with thorns, like I live in a place where every other tree has thorns, every other grass has thorns, because it's a drier area. So living with all of these things, I think I started really connecting to nature as more, nothing as good as bad or black and gray, but as something beautiful as however it is. So even looking at snakes as beautiful things, looking at scorpions as beautiful things, and looking at thorns as beautiful things. I think that kind of living with them, actually experiencing them in a day-to-day life, having bugs bite you almost every day, all these kind of experiences, but still waking up to a beautiful sunset, to the chirping of birds, and just the whole experience of having lived here has really deepened my understanding and connection of what nature is.
Um, so when did I like feel a strong connection to Mother Earth? Um, so there was a time a couple of years ago when I used to live in Tiruvannamalai, this town, very spiritual town located in South India in Tamil Nadu, and there was, it's a town known for this 14-kilometer long circumambulation, this parikrama of the mountain there, which is like a pilgrimage that people undertake almost every day throughout the year, in fact. But it is specially done on full moon nights. So the day before the parikrama would happen on in Tiruvannamalai, and the day after, the town would look very different, because while while there were these people who would take the supposedly very spiritual, very sacred pilgrimage for themselves around the mountain, they would also end up, polluting the town, and and the whole town would look very different the next day. And I was there one day, post the pilgrimage, and I was wondering what would really make them do that. And for me, there was a strong realization of this umbilical cord of that I share with Mother Earth, because I would wonder that what would supposedly make them pollute the womb of the mother from where they're born. Uh, so I felt that long time ago, when we are born, just like how our umbilical cord is cut from our mother, I feel somewhere many, 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 centuries ago, I felt that maybe somehow we lost our connection to Mother Earth, and not realizing that we are actually, hurting her and polluting her. We go on doing things. Sometimes maybe knowingly, but most times unknowingly, because we don't feel that connection anymore. So that realization for me was very strong, very alive at that time. And in that moment, I felt very much connected to Mother Earth. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Um, for me, my journey started when I was studying biology for my 11th and 12th. And when you study ecology, in the textbook, there are all these things like we should preserve forest because forest gives us this. Animals are important because they are of these uses. So I always used to wonder that is it just because of their use that we are protecting, or just by being themselves, protect them. Like they are just existing and we should protect. So I always used to wonder. And then when after my 12th grade, I went to Swaraj University. So that time the campus was in midst of mountains. So there is a lake nearby, and so that is the time when I really connected to nature. And I'd like to share one recent experience. So some time ago, I saw this cartoon where a child is sharing with the father, "Oh, dad, look, there is a bee." And so the father says, "Yeah, quickly roll up the newspaper." So boy gives the newspaper to the father, and the father says, "Thank you for being there, bee." And the bee smiles and cries. So some time ago, whenever I from then, whenever I see a bee, I make a conscious effort to remember this, and to say thank you, bee. And I see that after I share that, uh, the bee likes to move around me, and she flies around me and everything, which is little scary, but I feel so connected and I feel so one with the bee. Madhuri, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So, how was Life Beyond Development born? When did you guys think of starting it? How it happened? Tell us the full story, journey of Life Beyond Development.
So both or three of us, me, Savri, and Shivendra, we attended Swaraj University, and Swaraj University is an alternative university for self-designed learning. And there we were introduced to these two amazing workshops. One was food politics with Purvi Vyas, and another was rethinking development, which is questioning this whole phenomena of development that we have going today. Um, so that those workshops really opened up a new way for us to see and question the system. And we also made a lot of changes in our lives and lifestyles, to see to be more sustainable, and also regarding social justice. So then we were making all these changes and making conscious effort, and uh, then we were presented with this opportunity, share these things, share this rethinking development process with our next with the next cohort. And when we took up that opportunity, we read a lot, we researched, and what that that process, it really moved us and filled us with even more passion than before, and wanting to and wishing to do something about this. We saw this huge thing, and we wanted to do something about it. And we believed that if we want to bring a change, we must start with children and youth, and that is one of the way to bring really sustainable change. So we decided to start Life Beyond Development to spread awareness about sustainability and environmental issues as well as social justice, and for children and youth to have a space where they can connect with nature. And so far, we have done 6 workshops with children and 4 workshops with youth. And we've also created modules for school teachers and facilitators to, share with children. And we are also running a Facebook and Instagram page to spread awareness about this to larger audience.
Wow. Thank you, Isha. So now there is an ongoing campaign going on your page called Plastic Free July. So let's talk about plastic a bit. Do you think it's possible to live without plastic, and how do you think we should start? How should we start living without plastic?
So I think the question kind of gets answered in the campaign that we're doing. So the reason we're doing this campaign is to tell people that, there is a crisis, there is a plastic pollution crisis that exists in today's world. The crisis of the single use mindset of plastic is creating a lot of ripple consequences in our lives and in wildlife and nature and all. So there is a huge problem, and as an individual it can look very overwhelming or very impossible, because I myself, if I look around myself, everywhere there's plastic. I mean, everything is just plastic. I cannot think about anything that does not, any space in my life that does not have plastic. So I think the objective of this campaign is to tell people that you can start somewhere and start with small steps. So this is the Plastic Free July actually started by an organization in Australia, and their objective was that through this 1 month, as a community, people come together and they choose one item, just one item that they want to switch from. For example, let's say I stop using a single use plastic Bisleri bottle and carry my own water bottle, or I switch to a bamboo toothbrush, or non disposable pens or anything. So the idea of this organization in Australia was to kind of challenge people, and as a community, create a community of people who want to take this challenge, and kind of they support each other in doing that. And over the years, this has become like a campaign that a lot of people who work on environmental sustainability use to kind of spread awareness about plastic, and what is the possibilities of living plastic free July. Sorry, what is the possibilities of living plastic free, and we just use the month of July to kind of campaign that. And so I think what we are also doing through the page is to give people ideas that there are small things in our life, small aspects. Like if we go into the kitchen and see what are the things that I can switch, just go into the bedroom and see, we're going to the bathroom. So going into different aspects of our life and seeing what are the small changes. I don't think anyone is expecting anyone to go 100% plastic free, because finally plastic has a lot of uses, and it has its benefits, especially like things in medical industry, or simple things like all our gadgets are made out of plastic. And as an individual, it can be difficult to bring change in every aspect. But I think the idea that we really want to say is that start with whatever you want to do, and that's how through the campaign we're giving tips. We have a Facebook community. So we're doing this in collaboration with Youth Alliance, which is another organization in Delhi who's working on helping youth to be change makers, and empowering them. And so we're doing it in collaboration with them. And so they do these, they have a Facebook page where people as a community can come together and discuss what are the issues that they are facing with leading a zero waste lifestyle. Plus weekly we are doing, webinars and live conversations. So I think the real idea of this campaign is to come together as a community and to start having conversations about what are the possibilities of going off single use plastic. I think because it is possible to go off single use, at least then maybe we can think about more other usages of plastic. Do you guys want to add anything? Okay.
Thank you, Asavari. This like current situation, we all are going through a very different situation right now with COVID, lockdown, everything. So, what are the challenges which you guys are facing as an organization and also individually?
So you're saying specific to the COVID time, Madhavi, or overall, what are the challenges that we are facing?
Uh, you can talk about both overall also and specific to COVID also.
Okay. So I think one challenge that the three of us have faced is that we kind of live in three different geographical locations. So I live here in, in a small village. Shivendra lives in Coimbatore, and Isha lives all the way up north in Gujarat. So and the initially for I think almost a year we were together, and that's when I think we were able to do a lot. We were able to, because the energy of collaboration, we took a lot of workshops. So we were able to develop a lot of content and do a lot more. Now as individuals, when we are in different physical locations, it gets challenging, it gets difficult to collaborate, it gets difficult to create that team energy to do work. And especially when you're doing this kind of work, which is about bringing about change, which is about engaging with people, which is about doing something that is it, it's kind of like everyone is not talking about plastic free. So when you're doing something new, it's always more easier to do it in community, but that is sometimes difficult for the three of us, also because we three have our own main projects that we're doing, our main work that we're doing, and this is like a side project that or a side initiative, and so we're not able to give all our time and energy to it. And so that also kind of slows down the work we're doing, especially now in lockdown. I feel there's a lot more opportunity to start talking about these things, because people are starting to think why we have got COVID, what is the issue. So there's a lot of more scope to do it, but we are facing the challenge of being in different physical locations, not having the time or energy to collaborate, and then thus we're not able to take out, I think, as much time, or as we're not able to do as much as we would have loved to do. um and I think, yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I resonate with what Asauri said. Those are definitely the main, like the top two challenges. One thing that I would like to add is because that we are mostly an online platform when it comes to interaction with our audience. We have conducted workshops in the past, but 24 hours we are available only online. So it becomes quite difficult to be a page on Facebook and to quantify the effect and impact that we have on the audience, on the people who follow our page, who like our posts. Of course there are Facebook statistics, but there is a very different feel to feedback that you get instantly whenever we've done workshops, whenever we've taken feedback after every single day or at the end of the workshop. It's much more relatable. It's easy to work on that feedback. We have tried in the past to put posts online asking for feedback, asking for people what would you like, and how would you like us to grow, and what are the kind of posts that you would like to see that you're not seeing. But we haven't been very successful. I mean, we haven't got much feedback that way. Also, one um, challenge that I personally face during the time of lockdown is that because we're all locked up, or not, I mean, we're all trapped in our own homes and we're not able to meet each other, we're not able to go out. Most of the content that we are consuming is online. So there is already so much happening online that one needs to be very conscious about the screen addiction, the amount of screen time that we are subjecting ourselves to. So it becomes all the more difficult to work online as a project, and interact with people online and design content. So it's definitely much more gratifying to work offline and for workshops. So yeah, that's one thing that I feel that is challenging in these times specifically.
One more thing I would like to add, which also kind of relates to Madhvi's question about challenges in the present time. Um, Sometimes, honestly, it feels like we are swimming against a tsunami wave. The system sometimes becomes so overwhelming, and wherever you look around, there are these depressing news, and so that is definitely a challenge to keep our spirits high and keep motivating ourselves to continue doing this work.
And I think I wanted to add to what Isha was saying, like especially now and in July when I'm doing this plastic free July and campaign, and recently I was having a conversation with a group of people on how we can go plastic free in our kitchens, like by buying loose grocery or by going to in India we have grocery stores that we can easily buy loose items from, and a lot of small ways that we can create use not use single use plastic in the kitchen. But a very common concern that people have is that right now with this whole COVID thing, with the whole lockdown thing, it is so difficult for people to go plastic free. In fact, I myself, who have a lot of practices of not bringing plastic into the house because of this whole COVID thing about not being able to go outside, not being able to get access to a lot of resources, the increase of online shopping, the increase of buying things in plastic because that's more accessible or that's more convenient is more stronger. And I so sometimes I feel that this even though COVID is giving a lot of space for people to pause, reflect, it possibly some people say it's a break from Mother Nature and all of that things, but the scare of how the post COVID world is going to look, and the way these things are going to get accelerated, like the the factories are suddenly going to want to produce more because they haven't produced for so long, or the use of single use is going to become more stronger because people have the scare of virus contamination. Simple thing like hand sanitizer, it is so difficult to use a zero waste option for that. You have to buy a plastic bottle. So there's so many small things that I feel just add up to the whole situation.
Yeah, I can feel you. And as Isha said, how it is like swimming against the waves. So it gets overwhelming. And my next question is, how do you guys deal with it? How do you guys take care of yourself, your mental health? What is your coping mechanism?
So I think for me it's continuing to do whatever I can. So just a small things, like whatever it is possible for me. Like for example, right now in the COVID situation at my home, the amount of online shopping has really increased. So we're buying more from Amazon because we are not able to go out. So when I realized that that's not something I can control, I thought of what are the things that I can control, what are the things. So just recently I was able to have a conversation with my family that okay, we are producing waste, but can we now do something about that instead of just taking it out into the landfills, which what we were doing till now? Can we start thinking of doing something else? And I think for me that's always been my coping mechanism, as to keep doing something, and especially in my own life, because I think it's very important that even if I don't teach others what to do, what not to do, I have to keep taking steps in my life to move to a more sustainable lifestyle. Because I know I'm not perfect. There's so many things that I still do which are harming the planet or which do have consequences. So that has been the biggest way for me to cope, that I can just the trust that I know I can keep taking small steps and keep doing something. And of course a lot of strength I have also got through the working in life beyond development, because we even just knowing that 10 people out there are looking at our posts on social media, or we're able to touch 5 children through our workshops, these kind of things keep me motivated, that I need to keep doing, I need to keep creating content, I need to keep sharing with the world what, and to keep sharing hope. If I keep sharing it, then I think I feel that also very strongly. And another lesson that I have learned in these years of you know feeling like I'm swimming against the current, is to think, not take the whole burden on my shoulders. It's not like I am supposed to be the hero of this whole situation and save the whole world. That is not my role. I'm just one, a part of a huge community that is working towards change. And no, and to think about it that way, to know that this is not a perfect situation, or nothing is going to perfect. Like suddenly if we remove all plastic in the world, it's not like we're going to live in a very perfect world. So to feel that kind of sense that I am just one, a part of lot of people. It's a community, and we are just trying to live more consciously. And whatever that happens, I don't have to be an idealistic person. I think that really has helped me to embrace the different challenges and burdens that come with wanting to bring change on such a large crisis.
So yeah, I think I should just start with taking a deep breath and talk about mental health, because it definitely gets on our nerves. It gets on my nerve, and it's quite difficult when, like, most of the world is talking a different language and you're trying to teach them a new language. And what helps me is to stay grounded in my reality, to stay grounded in my truth, like knowing that I can only do so much, and I'm can you hear me? Hello.
Shivendra, we're losing you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what helps me is to stay grounded in my truth, knowing that uh, what are the limitations of what I can do, being in my situation. So not beating myself down, that I'm not able to do as much as I want to do and as much change I want to bring in the world around me and in people. So that really helps. Also, what helps is to have family members, friends, and in my case, a very supportive, very nourishing, nurturing life partner, who understands your work and who also believes in your work, believes in the sanctity and the necessity of the kind of work that you're doing. So then you feel quite strong to have such a person beside you. That really helps. And also, if you are in a city or in a space where in a physical space, if you look for people who are doing similar work in your city, in your town, that really helps. Like, even if it's the local grocery store who is willing to give you ration in loose, and or maybe it's the local organic market or the organic store, which are trying to go zero waste. Trying to get in touch with them and constantly meeting them again and again really helps me feeling motivated and pumped up about the work that I'm doing, because then there is solidarity I feel, and there is also this knowing that I'm not alone in feeling whatever I'm feeling around this situation. Yeah.
Um, for me, lot of it is like what Asavri and Shivendra shared previously. Like Asavri shared that doing small actions uh, and keep doing those actions, no matter how small they are. Like, just taking care of your garden, or taking cloth bags and insisting shopkeepers to give it to you on the cloth in the cloth bag only and not the plastic bag. So even those small actions sometimes help, and help in this overwhelming situation. And like they shared the feeling of solidarity, friends and community really help. So, whenever you can talk with them, you can ask for help when it is needed. So it does feel like you are swimming against the wave, but you know that there is a community of people around you, and also for you to fall back on when you get tired. So friends and community is definitely important. And when it gets overwhelming, sometimes I also tune out of news myself. So um, wherever I get depressing news, I know those platforms. So sometimes I don't consciously see them. When I'm ready mentally, that time I go and check it out. So these are some of the practices that I do to keep myself motivated and take care of my mental health.
And I think I also wanted to add that it's like, especially in this situation, I think it's always important to note that it's not easy. By telling yourself that it's very easy to bring change, you create problems. So knowing that it's not easy and you always need you're it's always okay to reach out to people to take help. It's always okay to take a break. So it's okay to sometimes indulge in non-sustainable practices also to give yourself a break. So not being hard on yourself, I think, has been very important for me.
Yeah, I also want to add something because there are many, challenges to keep yourself sane in a situation like this. Um, Patting yourself, patting on your back on these small victories is very important because we feel that the battle is big, and we always think about our big losses, but it's very easy to like lose sight of the small wins that you have every day. Like for example, the other day, like I take these, I have this set of cloth bags and reusable bags that I take to shopping every time. So there is like one inside other, and I have like a bag for everything. And I go there, and often I like the shopkeeper responds to me saying, "Acha, आपके पास इसके लिए भी bag है. You have a bag for this also, and that also, and oh, you have a bag for this too." And it fills me with joy that he's like so surprised that I can do that. The other day I was shopping for vegetables and I did not have a bag because I'd gone for a walk, and then I found these really nice vegetables, fresh ones. So I went back to my home and got the bag. So this guy was like, "Did you just go back home to get a bag?" I said yes, and he was smiling, and he was like surprised, and he was like wondering what is wrong or right with this guy. So these small, moments, the three of us, I'm sure, when we go out do these things, we face such people, and we go through these victories, and I feel it's important to acknowledge them and say yes, you've made some change. At least somewhere in someone's head, you are planting a seed of sustainability.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, yay to you all three and your work. It's absolutely inspiring. Like personally, also I have learned a lot from all of you. Now, what has your work taught you? Like how your work has changed you?
I think the one biggest thing that I have learned from my work is that I'm not perfect. So, and that's fine. Like I know it's not good to, I mean, it's not good for the planet or my health to, let's say, use plastic, but once in a while, buying a chocolate that comes in plastic is fine. It's like, I don't have to be hard on myself. I don't have to be that perfect, sustainable person. So these kind of, situations have really taught me that whatever I do, like, whatever small things I do is fine. And I have been able to really start accepting myself the way I am. And in that, I think the biggest thing is, um, when I started switching to more natural living or a more conscious living, I started embracing myself, especially my physical appearance. So I think initially, that as a teenager, the thoughts of looking beautiful, wanting to be beautiful, and use in the societal terms, and then using those so-called cosmetic products that are that have chemicals, are coming in plastic packaging, and I think the biggest thing about those products is they're also damaging our own personal way of loving ourselves. And when I started doing this kind of work, when I started telling people that hey, that's a bad thing, start using these things, and I myself started using these, I think the fact that I could embrace how I look physically, and then slowly that moved on to embracing myself inside also, and my personality or the person I am. So I think this work has done that a lot for me, that when I work for the environment, you kind of work for yourself, and you kind of become more, you start looking at life with more joy and beauty. For me, that has been my experience, that when I started living more consciously, when I started seeing how every aspect of life is different, or not different, like just looking at the different aspects of life, like, okay, this is my relationships, how does this work, this is my, so these kind of things have kind of really started, like really helped me to start looking at life with more joy and beauty. And I think that that has been a very beautiful experience, especially when we started, I mean, we started off with the rethinking development workshop, and that just really changed the way I look at life, like how I define success, or how I define happiness, or how I define a good life. That these kind of definitions started really changing, and I started embracing things in a more different way. And I think it's been a very good turning point for me, because I'm very glad to be where I am today.
So I share many of Asawri's sentiments around self-love and body image and happiness, um, and self-care. Um, Also, I mean, I had the seed. I feel that, even before joining Swaraj, and even before joining to work with Asawri Nisha and Life Beyond Development, the seed had always been there, of rethinking development. But most of the times what happens is that there is not the right environment for it to get nurtured, and that's what has really helped me both in Swaraj University and Life Beyond Development, that it has really strengthened me. A lot of things that I wanted to work on, a lot of changes that I wanted to bring would only be thoughts before, but now they turn into actions, and they have turned into actions. And it's there is a series of um, processes that I have gone through about bringing about change in my life and in the life of my parents and my family. Also, the way I relate to my body, it makes me, the kind of work I do is very helpful in reminding me and making me reconsider what I put on my body and what I put inside my body. Why do I need self-care, and what sort of self-care do I want? And it really makes me think. um, it makes me want to connect to, and also reminds me to connect to the collective care of the entire planet and the people around me, and the pain and the suffering also. Then I feel interconnected, that what action of mine and what decision of mine, how does it affect the people around me and the earth, and then in turn affects me. It's like a circle. So that is something that I'm constantly trying to be aware of, trying to be mindful of. So that is how I feel that my work influences my life, um, and my actions. Yeah.
So I also resonate a lot with Shivendra and Asavati in embracing myself and embracing not just how I look but how I am, because nature accepts everything, you know, all the gray areas and everything. And it really connected I really got connected to nature and everything around me, I feel, through this work. And really understanding nature's principle like diversity or cooperation, empathy, love, all that, and bringing them in my life and practicing them in my life as much as I can. And it also made me to pause and observe things around me and think from different perspectives and questioning of the system and the status quo that is around.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Your sharing is not just, it is because you guys are living it and experiencing it. It is very lively and very like from within. So I am really really glad that we have you guys on board today. So now, yeah, difficult and easy question, but how to begin? Like, if I am a like if I have no idea about sustainable lifestyle, plastic free lifestyle, how should I start? Where should I start? how to go ahead with this?
So, like you might have, noticed us, the three of us, at different points of the live, talking about pausing and reflection and observing, and that's a huge part of our journey, how we all began our journey, and also how we continue to be in our journeys on an everyday basis. That is also something that Swaraj University, the alternative learning space that we spoke of, helped us do, because we were in a particular treadmill of sorts, and we consciously decided to step away from the treadmill and slow down. So I think the first step for for anyone who's willing to take this journey and wondering how do I begin is to pause, take a deep breath, and slow down and consciously try to observe yourself and the life around you, what is happening, who's doing what, and observe your response to everything that is happening around you, and especially the things that you find problematic. Because often it's not that most of us don't look at things that are problematic, it's just that we are very numb to our reactions and our responses towards it. So how can you pause and slow down and observe yourself, and then how do you become mindful of your response to what is problematic? Yeah, that is the first step.
So in education, we feel that harmony of head, hand, and heart is very important. So for me, that is one aspect to see this journey, or one perspective rather, to see this journey. So for example, head is like how you can question the system or question things that are going around you, like seeing that who is benefiting from this development, who is losing from this development, what do you call success, who is deciding these things, who is deciding who is developed, who is not developed, on what parameters. So all these basically questioning what we are given, by the experts. So that is one part. And second is connecting to nature. Um, we feel that we have somewhere, as humans, we feel lost our connection. A lot of people still have that connection, but a lot of us, especially living in the urban areas, we have lost somewhere our connection to nature, and it has kind of made us numb to what is going around, and to what is happening in to nature. So heart is connecting to nature, and connecting to even ourselves and body and heart, because a lot of times even I see when I work with children, when you ask them what are your feelings, they are not able to tell us what they are feeling. That connection with ourselves is also lost. So connecting to nature and connecting to our body and heart is very important, is what I feel.
Yeah, so I also wanted to add in the head part there, when we start questioning, I think one is of course questioning the bigger picture, but also questioning simple things like if I'm throwing this plastic cover in the dustbin, where is it going? Or if I'm buying this t-shirt from the shop, where is it coming from? So when I personally start questioning these kind of things, and I start trying to understand, trying to explore, trying to research about these kind of things, it kind of gave me a lot of insights about things. And it's naturally, when I know where it's coming from and when I know where it's going, I think the love for the product kind of increases to much more, because then there's a more understanding of what I'm using. Otherwise, we're just as consumers, just consuming, just buying, throwing. That kind of treadmill has started. But if we, like Shivendra was saying, just take a pause and say, okay, today I bought this nice bag of chips. So now where did these chips come from, and where will it go once I finish eating and throw the cover? And the last part of what Tisha was talking about, so head, heart, and hand. So in hand, what I think is like what I was also sharing when I was talking about the plastic free July, is to start with taking action. And that could be any action. So taking small actions. So it's not like suddenly if you want to live environmentally sustainable or a more conscious life, suddenly you have to go live like a nomad in a jungle or like a tribal person. That kind, of course, if you want to do that drastic change and that's what suits you and your lifestyle, you can go ahead. But I think the very simple thing is to start taking small changes, to see what decisions can I take more consciously. And one of the simple things is to do more mindful consumerism. So when I'm buying, to know, do I really need to buy this? Do what? Where is it coming from? Where is it going? So small switches, like, okay, starting to take a cloth bag when you go shopping, or starting to buy from more sustainable brands, or starting to buy from local brands instead of international brands. So anything, there are so many small things that each one of us can do in our own lifestyles, in our own life choices. And I think one of a very powerful thing that Purvi Vyas, one of our mentors, had shared, that every time you buy something, or every time you take food on your plate, or you go out and buy something, you are making a vote, you're making a choice, and you are voting for what kind of a life do you want, what kind of a world you want. So every time I'm going out there to the market and buying a Coca-Cola bottle instead of drinking lemon juice from a glass and from a local vendor, I'm making a choice, I'm making a vote as to what kind of a world I want. And I think that was a very powerful statement for me, to just start understanding that every action that I take, I can do it with more consciousness. Because and personally, and I think that's what at Life Beyond Development also, we believe that personally, individually, if we start bringing change in whatever way, in whatever small way, it, it is a huge thing. I mean, the power is in our hands. Let's say, if today everyone on the world decides that we don't want to shop with plastic covers, we want to take our cloth bag home, to sorry we want to from home take our cloth bag to the shop, then just today the whole plastic bag will be out of the picture. So I think the power is really in the individual hands. And if we start harnessing that power, if we start thinking about the power that we have, it can go a long way. And I think that's what we're really working also in Life Beyond Development, is to start helping people to make these switches, to help them understand what is happening in the world and what can they do to make their life more mindful and conscious. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing to what Asavri was saying in the last. So, one sentence that I learned from the feminist movement is that personal is political. So, what she was saying, that everything that we decide to, every paise that we decide to spend or not spend, uh, kind of reflects on the world, kind of world that we want. And each and every action is important, and it's not limited to you. It also kind of reminds me that all of us are interconnected in that way. So me drinking Coca-Cola is not just harming me, but it's also harming environment. And what is harming the environment is also going to harm me in the end. So, but it's I'm also giving my rupee to Coca-Cola to suck water from my villages. So everything like that is interconnected, and personal is political.
Yeah, all of that, all these tips that we're giving, might seem for a beginner who's like trying to begin this journey, might seem a little overwhelming, and that is where we want to remind you that you're not alone. Because one thing that empowers us on a daily basis is the fact that we know that we are not alone, and we have a community, we have a support system backing us up in our journey. So I want you to constantly remind yourself that even if you might be just starting this journey, you're not alone, and there are many organizations, people, like-minded individuals who are doing this, and they are welcoming you, into the tribe, along with everyone else that already is there and doing all this conscious work. So I would encourage you, in fact, we would encourage you to find your tribe wherever you're living, be it a city, a village, a town. Find these people. Maybe there is just a shopkeeper who believes in similar ideals and similar principles that you do, but is trying to look for another partner in crime like you. And you can also reach out to these different people. You can locate organic stores, zero waste stores. These stores are coming up in small cities and big cities now. It just takes a little more work to locate them. And you can always have conversations with people who are on a similar path. You can reach out to us, our page, Life Beyond Development on Facebook. Write to us, message us, and we might not have all the answers to your questions, but we would love to explore these questions together with you, because we feel that together we can go farther in our commitment towards living a life like this. So yeah, welcome aboard.
Wow. Thank you, guys. So as all of them said, together we can, and hence I would tell all of you to connect with these guys at Life Beyond Development on Facebook and Instagram, and you can ask them, you can follow them, you can share your views with them, and we all can do this difficult task. We can join hands and we can do it together. Thank you very much, Asavari, Shivendra, and Isha. It was great to have you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Madhvi.
Madhvi, for
It
giving
was
us
lovely
this
being
opportunity.
interviewed. Yeah, lovely being interviewed by you. Thank you so much.